All right, we're here. I'm Jason.
I'm Keely.
This is Second Cup of Coffee. It is Thursday. We are probably going to have one of our greatest shows since yesterday.
Yes.
Well, that's going to be just, that's going to go well. Good. Good. So, yeah, we've had a full morning. Lots of stuff going on. Lots of work happening. Last night it thunderstormed here, so we let the kids jump in puddles and eat outside in the rain instead of taking them to the pool, which was awesome. Side note, don't let weather ever dictate your day. Yeah. Never let weather say you get up in the morning, you see something, and let it set your mood off the wrong way. I mean, that's sometimes where you just have to get out and do stuff in the rain because, I mean, in some parts of the country, it rains like a third of the year, right? And so if you're going to let weather impact your mind, you just don't need to do that.
I'm laughing because I'm actually from and was born in one of those places. Hilo has the most rainfall than anywhere, maybe Seattle or something, but so much rainfall per year. So when it started raining last night, the kids were like, let's go inside. I'm like, no, you guys are playing in the rain. Because when I get wet, here's some water balloons, play in the rain, jump in puddles. We're going to eat in the rain. And it was a ton of fun. Some
of the best things you can do is just change up the narrative, right? And that's for your days, for everything else. And it's a lot of it, right? So I think the routine is it's something we can rely on as long as it's giving us the right direction, especially when a lot of people were stuck at home for so long. Like having something you can get back to give yourself a momentum in the day, but you can't let it change constantly based on these things that are just outside your control. The weather's going to be the weather, right? So, and if you move to another climate, well, if it's too cold and too rainy here, it might be too hot and too humid there, right? So don't let something like that just change your mood because it's a waste of time, right? You can get your best things done at any point. But in that light. Well,
how did we change our day up today? Because we didn't get to go to the pool yesterday.
Yeah, we took kids to the pool this morning.
Just got back.
Got some stuff done. You know, we played a lot with the kids. I got a couple things done while I was there. Just made it happen, right? And that's what it is that, okay, so we can't do that yesterday. Fine. Let's not cry about it. Let's not throw our toys. Let's just say, well, maybe someone's throwing their toys. Do we have anybody throwing their toys?
Yes, all of them.
All of them are throwing their toys. And I can understand, right? If you're 5 and under, you're probably throwing your toys because, you know, especially if you can't communicate. But in that part, when they got outside and they were jumping around the rain, it's like nothing ever happened, right? So it's just giving them something else instead of saying no, right? Okay, no can become a yes. And that's a lot with life, right? So how do we turn a no into yes? And with a lot of things I do, the way that it allows me to continue moving is that if I believe there's a yes, and I mean, I'm sure Peely can vouch for this, is that if I believe there's a yes, I'm not going to take no. I'm going to keep asking the question, even if I ask you the question 70 ways or 17 different ways, because I believe there's a yes. And the easy thing is just to say no, right? That's usually the easy pattern in life. No. Well, why not? And you can see this when you're working with a lot of people. You're working in all different kinds of aspects. If someone doesn't know, well, then it might be a no. But have you done the right steps up front to ask the right questions, to identify what is the question that needs to be done or needs to be asked to get yourself further, right? So for me, I won't accept a no if I think there's a yes.
It's true. He won't. Neither will our children.
Yeah.
Can we have TV? No. Can we have screen time? No. So every which way, come at something. If you believe there's a yes in anything that you're doing, come at it from different angles. Sometimes you have to see it from a different angle and ask the question differently.
So I don't want to give our kids this trick, but one of the best ways to get to the answer is that ask why. But then ask why 5 different times.
They already know that trick.
Well, they do. But I think I've laid it into them too much. But you ask the question why. But the first why is superficial. The second why is almost a afterthought. The third why may make them think. Because if you're sitting there right now, and we're going to talk about finances today, but if your goal is I want $1 million, well, is that really the goal? And why? What is it that is that why? Because you may find the first part, it sounds good. The second part, you know, I've never had that much money. The third part is, you know, I think that's what success means. The fourth part is that if I was able to do this, I'd able to provide a better source, you know, for my family to have a better chance to get out for the future. And if the fifth step was that that would allow me to give my kids the education that I think they need to push forward. Well, okay, so we've gotten to a real thing that you think $1 million will tackle. Will it? I don't know. But on that part, you've gotten to something that just says, I want $1 million, down to if I was able to have a good amount of income coming in, then I'd be able to give my children and everyone after me resources to possibly have potential to succeed.
Well, it's not only the why. Let's transition into the how. How is that going to happen? How are you going to be financially stable, financially free? What does that actually look like for you? Because it might look different. Not even might. It looks different for you than it does for me, than it does for Jason, than it's going to for our children. How does that look for you, and how are you going to achieve that? How are we going to achieve that?
Yeah, and unfortunately, financial education is just, it's not something that really happens a lot,
No.
right? And people don't want to talk about it. There's a funny thing when a lot of people don't like talk about money, talk about what they're doing, talk about, because most people feel inadequate to the point to having a conversation. But if you think about it and you say, okay, what's the first step here? Because if most people had $1 million today, they wouldn't know what to do with it, right? They'd be reckless, and because they didn't have the education or the training, right? And same thing here. We didn't grow up in school system that said, okay, let's talk about,
Talk about saving,
checking your checking account, like balancing your checkbook, like none of that was put forward, right? And so when you get out, you're given a point here where you're set in line, go get a job, and then even at that point, now you have all these loans. How do I position myself to succeed? It's the people who say, enough, enough. There's got to be a different way, or have other people teaching them that are able to break the narrative, right? But it's now, what can we do on our side to say, okay, what is the new narrative? What are the things? Because just having a lot of money does not mean success if you can't use that money correctly, or potentially have the right way to benefit with using that money the right way.
No, that's true. I mean, for the longest time, I didn't want to have any discussions about money. Whenever we discussed money in the past, I would be like, okay, what's in the bank account? Great. Whatever, blah, 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 blah. Or if we would discuss finances, I would take it personally, because I didn't understand that it's not personal. It's just, this is what we have to do. This is how we're going to take it to the next level. This is how we're going to adjust and keep our finances healthy and growing.
Because if we can't help ourselves, we can't help others.
Exactly.
And that's the simple thing. And there are things right now where people have put in positions, and I have some friends that own a bar in a town over. They're doing everything right, and just shut off. Nothing they've done wrong. But now, and they're being creative. They're thinking outside the box. They have the town working. They're able to open up and got additional outside seating. So hopefully that would get that point. But having that backdrop to think about, okay, how can I prepare in a way that when the faucet shuts off, or something happens that's an out of my control event, or even in an event that happens that just you took a calculated risk and it just didn't work. Well, what do you have prepared so you have something of a foundation to go back to?
Yeah, a plan. You need a plan. If you just jump into it and just gamble everything away, and you don't have a plan, and gambling is your plan, then that is not financial stability. That is not a job. That is reckless. So what is your plan?
Yeah, and Jacob says, so it shouldn't be any different from any other school subject. I had to learn how to do my tax myself at 19 because I didn't learn it in school. Yeah, absolutely right.
Exactly. I actually remember going to a finance class in school, but it was I remember it being this deep, dark dungeon, and it was taught by somebody that I just did not want to listen to. The thing is, to make finances and to make our children financially savvy, we have to make it like it's exciting, because it is exciting.
Yep.
We have to make it like it's like art, or it's like the best subject. It's like watching football. I know this sounds really strange to a lot of people, but you have to make finances and being financially stable and healthy exciting for your children. Because if you don't, they're going to end up in a position like if you, old listener, are in a place of financial stability, if you don't teach your children how to be financially stable, whatever legacy you put up for them, whatever padding you give them, it's not going to stay. Right, Lily? Right. She's coming to she's the exclamation point. So
she is. Yep. So we're actually working with the kids and just to teach them about barter, teach them about trade, teaching them about resources. And there's not something we're beating this down their little minds hours a day, but we're just doing something, but then explaining what we're doing and why, right? What we're doing.
Can we switch screens.
Can you switch screens? I'm sure you can. And so I don't know if she wants to come talk and send us in the other room. She's got an awesome podcast coming out called Ukuleles and Unicorns. Is that true?
Ukuleles and Unicorns.
I don't know if that's true, but that's
true.
a super name right there. But in that said, the first thing you just really need to do is you just have to be open with where you're at. And that can be tough, right? It can be really tough just to look at where you're at and just take the moment to just stop and say, okay, here's the position I'm in, because you can't move forward without knowing where you're starting, right? You just can't move forward. It's I guess like and really putting feelers out there about what are some of the options I can do. For whatever reason, I had a conversation about the deadliest catch, right? They don't just go out there and just start, fishing. They don't just go, okay, let's just go fishing out there. We hope, right? They plan ahead. They go out there and they drop bait. They drop crates in a bunch of different areas, right? And then I'll go back and pick up those crates and look at what they have right there, and then say, okay, this is the best area for us to go out there and just find the most resources, right? But it's now going out there and learning and testing, and then using that and building upon it next time, and building and building and building. It's the same thing with finances. So we did want to talk about 3 ways today. All right. So we'll talk about 3 ways that you can begin to get control of your finances. Number 1, I'll go.
Yes, go.
Number 1 is to know what you're actually spending and know what your actual expenses are. So many times that we just see our bank account every month, it's just low. It's just at 0. And what do, right? Because I don't know how I got there. And I assume the only option there is to make more money to fit that. But that might just create more problems, because the more you make, the more you spend, right? And you want to look at, okay, what am I spending and what is necessary in my day?
I'm going to let you list the things. I'm going to add to it just in case I have to go to the other room with this little girl. So the thing is, and with this, in the step number 1, you have to make sure that you have a communication between you and your significant other, your partner, and your children as well, and make sure you're all on the same team. You're following the same budget. Especially right now, when we jumped into COVID, we didn't know what was going to happen, how much we needed to have saved. So we made sure that we had a budget, that we weren't overspending, and that a ton of Amazon boxes weren't showing up in the front door.
Yeah. Is that happening? No. So step 2 right here. What was our step 2? Do you remember? No. You don't remember. Okay, fine.
I have my mommy.
She has number
brain
3. She has mommy brain on. So step number 2 is that start to create a reserve plan. And people talk about this a lot, right? But you don't want to be in a position here where once you know your expenses and the expenses you need to have each month, that you have to start making decisions that are reckless because each month or something happens that you don't have the reserves in place. And it's, the profit first analogy, pay yourself first. You have to make sure you're putting something away and putting something away for you and your future right there, even if it's just an initial reserve account. So when something comes up unexpected, is that you can access what's happening without being forced to do something that's outside of everything that you believe you should do because you don't have a choice. So of course, step 1, know what you're spending. Step 2, create a reserve plan. Start having something in reserve. And then number 3 is as simple as this: create your future plan, right? And that's the roadmap for where you're going. And if you don't know, there's a bunch of people you can speak to. Just understand what kind of fees they charge on other points, but just get an idea of what does my future look like. If I was to look forward at 10 years, 20 years, and 30 years from now, what does my future look like? Because you don't want to be 65 and go on and to retire, and all of a sudden you have enough money only lasts to 71, and you have to go back in the workforce. You don't want to be the person who now becomes dependent on others because we haven't prepared correctly. So you can start today, and a lot can change, right? We have so many stories of people starting at any age where they're able to turn things around very quickly because they got very honest with themselves where they are, looked at what they need to do, they came up with a plan, and then stuck to the plan. So of course, number 1 was know what you're spending. Number 2 here was have a reserve plan in place so you can make necessary decisions instead of being forced into decisions when something calls for you to dip into that reserve plan. And number 3 would be have a future plan. Lay down how much money you potentially are looking for retirement. Can I make that with my job? Is that going to give me the stability here? Do I need to look at different side hustles, different things that I can bring anything in to get me up that point right here? And going back to number 2, and this will be a little bonus track right here. If you don't have a reserve plan, I guarantee you can find 10 to 15 things in your house right now that you can sell right now, and basically get some cash to put some cash away.
I mean, that's exactly what we did. As soon as this whole situation hit, we scrounged through our house, got a bunch of stuff that we could sell and just put it out there.
I think Gary Vee was doing it. I wanted to test the model. That was 1. And 2, I was like, we do have a lot of stuff that I just trip over daily.
Yeah.
So you look at that, you go,
and then future speaking, if you have children, you want to set them up as well. Mm-hmm. Again, teach them financial stability and health and what it takes to become financially free. But then from that point on, make sure that you plan for their futures.
So do we have a bonus?
Do we have a bonus?
I'm asking you, would you like anything to top it off with?
You're my bonus.
Thank you. Well, you're my bonus. Beautiful. Well, nobody else needs to hear this, but I guess the bonus would be start now. Start now.
Aw, thank you, Sora.
So yes, the bonus is now start now. You don't have to have, I think some people think that you have to have money aside or money coming in or more money or anything to start now. But no, you get to that point by starting now, by doing the steps in place and just having the hard truth with yourself. Look at what you're doing. And I guarantee if you look for what you're doing right now, there's probably 3 to 10 subscriptions that you have that are monthly charges, even if it's like $2. I mean, just things, but things you do not use, and they're just there. And you said, you know what? Oh, maybe I'll use it later, and you just don't use them. With all these apps and everything else that have the free trials and all, the opt-in, right? So we'll give you 15 days for free, and then you forget about it, and all of a sudden now you're paying $20 a month, $20 a month, $20 a month. But if you look that up and you say, okay, well, there's $240, and how many other $240 a year could I be putting into that reserve area right now and setting up? And the reserve area is for that reserve. You have to treat that money like it's not there. You have to treat that money like it does not exist. And you can't just say, oh, you know what? I want to get a pair of shoes, so I'll go buy a pair of shoes out of the reserve money, and I'll put that money back. That's not how it works. That money is there for emergency and should only be touched with that term, emergency. And TV is not an emergency. Vacation is not an emergency. An emergency is an emergency.
Medical emergency. The list goes further and further, but that money, you keep it there, you don't touch it. One bonus from me is something that you can teach your kids about finances. Get 3 empty bottles. I would make it not glass. Mm-hmm. So get like old peanut butter jugs, or just save up 3 bottles. Make 1 for savings, 1 for spending, and 1 for giving. So at each of those ones, you label them. And anytime, if you give your children money for chores, if you give your children like a monthly spending, have them put that money into these jars. And so they can look and see what money looks like as it accumulates, and see when they use the spending jar, how the money goes down in comparison to the savings jar, and give that savings jar like a name, like where it's going to go. Like even if you give it, like, I'm going to buy a unicorn one day, or this is my money for a house, or this is my money for a ball, something that they're saving big for. And then the spending, they can spend it on whatever they want at the time that they want it. Like, teach them that if they use their money, that's going to go down. And then the saving for to give, find something that you can connect with your child about, something that you think would touch their hearts, like giving to, I don't know, like a children's shelter, or giving to,
we give to
Feed
Imagine.
America,
Imagine,
or give to
one
Imagine.
we give to is a great cause for parents and children who have lost their children or parents, and have to learn to adapt to a time that they shouldn't have had that happen, and just have people around them that can connect and can speak to and help them build their next steps in their life when they're having a key significant person in their life lost at either such a young age. So going forward, we will see you tomorrow. We got a week, what we learned this week coming up. Got anything else for us?
The kids really want to play today. They really want to say hi to you guys.
Good. We will see you tomorrow. This is Second Cup of Coffee. I'm Jason.
I'm Keely.
See you tomorrow.